At 9:47 p.m., the silence of Willow Creek Library was broken by a scream. By the time police arrived, the quiet sanctuary of knowledge had become a crime scene. A beloved librarian was found lifeless among the stacks, and the murder weapon was something no one expected. In a town where everyone thought they knew each other, suspicion spread faster than the news itself. Tonight, we open the doors to a mystery that refuses to be checked out. Murder in the Archives, a chilling crime story unraveled. This is only the beginning. What secrets hide in the shadows of Willow Creek Library? And who among them wanted silence at any cost? Don't stop here. The deeper you go, the darker it gets. We bring you the hottest viral docu-stories. Join the conversation in the comments. Hit like if you enjoyed this clip and subscribe so you never miss a thing. Viewer discretion warning. This program contains disturbing accounts of violence, strong language, and adult themes. Viewer discretion is advised. First, let's take a look at the town's quiet sanctuary. Libraries are supposed to be sanctuaries, places of silence, safety, and shared knowledge. In the small college town of Fairhaven, Massachusetts, the public library wasn't just a building filled with books. It was the heartbeat of the community. Children came after school for story hour, retirees gathered for chess games, and university students used its quiet reading rooms for late-night cramming. But on October 12, 2009, that sense of safety was shattered. At 7:52 p.m., a janitor named Mark Bledsoe unlocked the heavy oak doors to begin his nightly rounds. He expected the usual: empty tables, the faint smell of paper and dust, the quiet hum of the heating system. Instead, he found a scene that would haunt Fairhaven forever. Lying in the history room, slumped over a table covered in open books, was Professor Ellen Roth, a beloved literature professor at the local university. She wasn't asleep, she wasn't resting, she was dead. Her neck bore strange bruises, the unmistakable marks of strangulation. The room told a story, but it wasn't clear what it meant. Books about witch trials, hidden societies, and secret codes were scattered around her. One book had a single page dog-eared, a passage about truth buried in silence. Detectives were called, and within an hour, the library transformed from a quiet refuge into a crime scene. Yellow tape crisscrossed its marble staircases. Flashbulbs lit up shelves that had once been shadowed. Fairhaven, for the first time in its memory, had a murder on its hands. To understand the murder, investigators needed to understand the victim. Ellen Roth, 47 years old. A scholar of early American literature, she had written acclaimed books on the Salem witch trials and the culture of secrecy in Puritan New England. Her students adored her. Colleagues respected her. The community saw her as a gentle, brilliant mind. But beneath her calm exterior, Ellen's life wasn't as simple as it seemed. She had recently divorced after a tumultuous marriage to David Roth, a contractor with financial troubles. There were whispers of a romantic entanglement with a younger faculty member, Dr. Liam Carter, a rising star in the English department. In the weeks before her death, Ellen had told friends she was onto something big, research that could rewrite part of history. She never explained what she meant. Detectives began to piece together her final hours. That evening, Ellen was seen entering the library at 5:30 p.m. She carried a stack of old reference books and her leather satchel. The last confirmed sighting was by the librarian, Margaret Hill, who locked up the circulation desk at 6:15. By 7:52, she was dead. The timeline left just over an hour for the murder. The library's security cameras, conveniently offline, they'd been down for 2 weeks awaiting maintenance. The only evidence was the books scattered around her, the bruise patterns on her neck, and a single dropped earring, not hers. The investigation was just beginning, but already it seemed like the library itself was guarding its secrets. The Fairhaven Police Department began with the obvious question: who would want Ellen Roth dead? At first glance, Ellen seemed universally loved, but scratch beneath the surface, and cracks began to appear. Suspect 1, David Roth, the ex-husband. David and Ellen's divorce had finalized just 9 months earlier, but tensions lingered. Financial records revealed David was drowning in debt. Ellen, meanwhile, had been awarded their home and had refused to co-sign a new loan he'd applied for. In police interviews, David came off defensive, bitter. He admitted being furious with Ellen but denied killing her. He also had no solid alibi for the evening of October 12th. Suspect 2, Dr. Liam Carter, the protege. Liam was 33, charming, ambitious. Rumors had swirled for months that he and Ellen were romantically involved. When questioned, Liam admitted they'd been close but denied any affair. Yet texts on Ellen's phone suggested late-night conversations, long walks, and confessions of admiration. Was it love? Or manipulation? Some colleagues thought Ellen had been helping Liam advance his career, but that he'd recently pulled away. Was Ellen's discovery of betrayal enough to cause confrontation? Suspect 3, Margaret Hill, the librarian. Quiet, meticulous, and deeply territorial about her library, Margaret raised suspicions almost immediately. She was the last to see Ellen alive. Oddly, she told investigators she didn't notice anyone else in the building that evening, but security logs showed at least 2 other card swipes at the staff entrance. Margaret also slipped in an odd detail, that Ellen had been obsessed with things better left in the past. Was she warning detectives or deflecting? Suspect 4, the unknown intruder. Then came the strangest lead. For weeks, multiple patrons had reported hearing strange footsteps and whispers in the history room after closing. A security guard had even joked the place was haunted. Could someone have been hiding in the stacks? A drifter? A stalker? Or someone deliberately planting themselves in the shadows until Ellen arrived that night? The discovery of the earring intensified the mystery. It didn't belong to Ellen. Forensic testing revealed traces of rose gold metal with a tiny sapphire, expensive, distinctive, and no match to anything in Ellen's possession. Let's review the theories, the twists, and the growing storm. Detectives began to spin theories. Theory 1, a crime of passion. If Ellen's death was personal, the suspects closest to her, David or Liam, were prime candidates. The bruising suggested close contact, possibly an argument that turned violent. But neither man had physical evidence tying him to the scene. No fingerprints, no hair, nothing but circumstantial connections. Theory 2, the research angle. The scattered books hinted that Ellen's work may have played a role. She was studying coded manuscripts related to colonial secret societies. A cryptic note in her satchel read, "They silenced them then, they will silence me now." Was Ellen paranoid, or had she stumbled onto something powerful enough to provoke murder? Theory 3, the keeper of secrets. What if Margaret Hill, the librarian, knew more than she let on? Detectives began to dig into her past. Margaret had been at the library for 30 years, fiercely protective of its archives. Old rumors suggested she once clashed with Ellen over access to restricted materials. If Ellen had pushed too far into forbidden history, did Margaret feel compelled to stop her, permanently? Theory 4, the outsider. Finally, the possibility no one wanted to consider, someone outside the circle. Perhaps a stranger, perhaps a patron who had watched Ellen closely. Police canvassed the town for unusual activity that night. One witness came forward, a college student who swore she saw a tall figure in a dark coat slip out a side door around 7:40 p.m. No face, no name, just a shadow. As weeks passed, the investigation grew more tangled. Every suspect had motive. Every lead raised new questions. And then, a break. DNA recovered from under Ellen's fingernails suggested she had fought her killer. But the profile did not match David, Liam, or Margaret. It matched someone else entirely. The name stunned investigators. It was a man who wasn't even supposed to be in Fairhaven that night, a man whose connection to Ellen Roth was murky at best. And when detectives tracked him down, his explanation raised more suspicion than it answered. Reporting on the breakthroughs and betrayals, the DNA discovery shook the foundation of the investigation. The name returned from the lab was Alan Prescott, a former professor of colonial history who had abruptly resigned from his teaching post years earlier amid whispers of misconduct. He was brilliant, erratic, and fiercely secretive about his research. Prescott had once been Ellen's mentor in graduate school, though their relationship had ended in icy silence after an academic dispute. When detectives tracked him down in Providence, Rhode Island, Prescott was living like a recluse. His cluttered apartment overflowed with books, letters, and coded manuscripts nearly identical to those Ellen had been studying. He admitted to meeting Ellen in Fairhaven weeks before her death, but insisted he had not been in the library the night she died. Pressed on the DNA, Prescott's explanation was bizarre. "Ellen and I argued. She clawed my hand. That must be the trace you found. But I left her alive. She was frightened, not of me, but of them. Detectives asked who them referred to, but Prescott refused to answer. Instead, he launched into rambling warnings about hidden societies, blood oaths, and a centuries-old promise that silence would be preserved at any cost. The detectives left frustrated. Prescott's words blurred the line between paranoid fantasy and chilling possibility. Back in Fairhaven, tensions mounted. Ellen's ex-husband David was furious that investigators seemed to shift focus away from him, while townsfolk whispered that he had gotten away with it. Liam Carter, meanwhile, was seen packing up his office, muttering that Fairhaven was cursed. And Margaret Hill, the librarian, seemed to withdraw further into herself. Staff noticed she stopped speaking Ellen's name altogether. Then came another shock. A hidden journal of Ellen's was found tucked inside one of the library's oldest volumes. Its final entry read, "I am not imagining it. Prescott warned me, but I had to know. They are watching me now. If I am silenced, let this be proof. The truth lies in the sealed archives." This cryptic note reignited the investigation and the town's fears. What archives was Ellen referring to? Were her studies truly dangerous enough to provoke murder, or was someone exploiting her fears to cover their crime? Reviewing the haunting legacies of Ellen, months passed. The official investigation slowed, and eventually, Ellen's case was filed as open but unsolved. Yet, Fairhaven was never the same. The library, once the pride of the town, became a place of unease. Patrons claimed to hear footsteps in empty halls. Staff reported books falling from shelves on their own. The history room, where Ellen's body was discovered, became the center of whispered superstition. People avoided it after dark. Some swore they had seen Ellen's silhouette moving among the shelves. For Ellen's family, closure remained elusive. David moved away, leaving behind bitter rumors. Liam left academia entirely, resurfacing years later as a writer of conspiracy thrillers, eerily echoing Ellen's unfinished research. Margaret Hill retired quietly, never granting interviews, never answering questions. As for Alan Prescott, he vanished from Providence not long after his interrogation. His apartment was found empty, his books and manuscripts gone. To this day, his whereabouts are unknown. The case lived on in speculation. Was Ellen's death the result of personal betrayal, a jealous lover, or resentful ex? Or had she truly uncovered something buried too deep, too dangerous to be revealed? One chilling detail lingers. Ellen's journal referred to sealed archives. Investigators searched, but the clue was never cracked. Some believe the archives exist in a hidden wing of the library, sealed generations ago by the very families who built Fairhaven. And so the story of Ellen Roth remains half-finished, a promising historian silenced, a town forever shadowed, and a mystery that refuses to rest. As the credits roll on Fairhaven's tale, one question echoes still. Did Ellen Roth die at the hands of someone she knew, or at the hands of something larger, older, and far more terrifying? Months became years, yet the silence surrounding Ellen Roth's death never lifted. Official files gathered dust in the Providence archives, marked with the cold phrase, "open but unsolved." But in Fairhaven, the silence was far from empty. It carried weight, whispers, and warnings. Residents described how the library itself seemed altered. The building, a beacon of civic pride since 1892, grew heavier with shadows. Custodians avoided locking up alone, claiming the second-floor lights flickered no matter how many bulbs were replaced. One late-night janitor swore he heard pages turning in the sealed history room. When he pushed the door open, the sound stopped, but a single book lay open on the floor. Ellen Roth's thesis draft, still marked with her handwriting. Others insisted it wasn't just superstition. A retired detective, speaking years later, admitted, "We were warned off the archives. I can't tell you who gave the order, but doors stayed locked, records stayed sealed, and anyone who pushed too hard found themselves reassigned." The Roth family lived under that silence too. Ellen's brother David avoided interviews, but friends recalled how he once muttered in a bar, "They killed her because she asked the wrong question." What question? No one knew. But the weight of his words lingered like the echo of footsteps on Fairhaven's marble floors. Alan Prescott had been the most unsettling figure in Ellen's orbit, the charismatic mentor turned possible suspect. After his interrogation by Providence police, he withdrew from public life. His lectures were canceled, his graduate students left adrift, and within months, his apartment stood empty. Inside, investigators found coffee mugs half filled, a typewriter abandoned mid-page, and filing cabinets completely bare. His library of rare texts gone. Neighbors recalled seeing movers late at night, loading boxes into an unmarked truck. The last trace of Prescott was a letter postmarked from Lisbon, Portugal, 2 years later, addressed to a former colleague. In it, he wrote cryptically, "Truth does not belong to us. It buries those who try to hold it." Handwriting experts confirmed it was his, but the letter raised more questions than answers. Had Prescott fled because he was guilty, or had he fled because he feared he was next? Theories flourished. Some believed Allen had orchestrated Ellen's death to silence her discoveries. Others whispered he had tried to warn her, only to be silenced himself. Whatever the truth, his disappearance wove another missing thread into the already tangled tapestry of Fairhaven's library tragedy. With Ellen dead, Prescott vanished, and the archives sealed, the mystery was no longer just about a historian's murder. It had become a story of erasure, of voices systematically removed until only questions remained. The theories that refused to die. In Fairhaven, speculation became a local pastime. 3 prevailing theories took hold, each as unsettling as the last. The betrayal theory. Some believed Ellen's death was deeply personal, the result of betrayal by someone she trusted, perhaps David, bitter and envious of her success, or Liam, who once loved her but felt discarded. Even Margaret Hill, who avoided all press, was sometimes whispered about in hushed tones. Did Ellen stumble too close to someone's secrets and pay the price with her life? The corruption theory. Others pointed to the sealed redevelopment archives. Ellen's notes hinted at land acquisitions tied to missing residents in the 1960s. Were the town's founding families involved in covering up crimes? If Margaret Kane and Ellen Roth had both uncovered evidence, perhaps their fates were inevitable. Protecting legacy meant silencing truth. The folklore theory. And then there was the strangest theory of all. Some in Fairhaven leaned into the supernatural, claiming the library itself resisted intrusion. Stories of cold spots, shifting shadows, and books falling without cause fed into an older legend that the land beneath the library had once been a burial ground, sacred, disturbed, and cursed. Ellen's journal even contained a chilling line. The archives are sealed not by locks, but by fear. To skeptics, these were the ramblings of grief and gossip. But to those who had seen Fairhaven's shadows firsthand, it was proof that Ellen's death was not random. It was inevitable. The legacy of Ellen Roth. Years passed. David Roth left the country. Liam Reed transformed into a novelist of conspiracies, every book a thinly veiled echo of Ellen's unfinished research. Margaret Hill retired, never again setting foot in Fairhaven. The library itself became a monument of contradiction, restored on the outside, hollow on the inside. Students study beneath chandeliers, yet no one dares approach the locked history room after dusk. A plaque commemorates Ellen Roth as a promising scholar taken too soon, but to locals it feels more like a warning than a tribute. What truly haunts Fairhaven is not the murder itself, but the emptiness that followed. Files missing, people vanishing, voices silenced, a community left forever looking over its shoulder. Ellen Roth entered the library to uncover truth. Instead, she became part of its mythology. Her death was never solved, her discoveries never revealed, her story never finished. And so the town of Fairhaven lives on in the shadow of her silence, its greatest mystery locked not in books but in whispers. Did Ellen Roth die at the hands of someone she knew, or something no one dares to name? The Holloway case isn't over. Subscribe now to follow the next chapter in Fairhaven's darkest legacy. A crime like this doesn't just end with an arrest. It lingers in every whispered rumor, every unsolved question, every person who still walks past the library at night and feels a chill. Who killed in the quiet heart of Fairhaven, Massachusetts, and why? The answers may lie in the shadows, waiting for you. Share your theory and join us as we continue to unlock the darkest corners of the mysteries. The mystery lives on. Disclaimer: this is a fictionalized crime documentary. It is not based on real events or people.